So a couple weeks ago, we talked about NATO. Today, we're going to talk about G20. What's the difference between the two? Who is World Economic Forum? Why are these guys in G20, the 20 countries, getting together in New Delhi to have a meeting? The theme was called One Earth, One Future, and the discussions points were around climate change, healthcare, food security, and digitalization. What do they mean by digitalization? Do they want to create one currency that we all use? And then do they score us on who votes the right way, what we drive, how we eat, how we live? Who knows? We're going to talk all about that today. So if you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into it. G20, it started in 1999. The original inception of it was after the Asian financial crisis as a forum for the finance ministries and central bank governors to discuss global economic and financial issues. So G20, NATO, World Economic Forum. G20 is different than NATO. NATO is military, G20 is economy. Then G20 is different than World Economic Forum because G20 is governments, World Economic Forum is private companies, just to kind of the difference between what these guys are. So who is part of the G20 members and why did two countries not show up to this year's G20 summit? The G20 members are Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Republic of Korea, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, United Kingdom, US, and EU. And two countries didn't show up. And I bet you can guess who those two countries are. Russia and China didn't show up to this year's G20 summit. Now, how big is G20? How much influence do these guys have? Here's what it looks like. They account for about 80% of world's GDP and 75% of global trade. G20 countries are home to 60% of world population, combined population of over 4.9 billion people, combined GDP over $150 trillion, hence digitalization. Imagine the influence they have of $150 trillion. They get to say, if we want to have one currency that you and I have to lose, they got enough power and influence to be able to pull that off. It may take them 5, 10, 15, 20 years, but they're going to pull it off if that's what they want to do because they got that kind of influence. 80% of world's greenhouse gases. They're responsible for about 75% of world's military spending. G20 has been criticized for its lack of transparency and accountability, and they've been criticized for its inability to reach consensus on important issues. And despite these criticisms, G20 remains an important forum for international cooperation on economic issues. So remember earlier when I talked to you about the fact that the theme was One Earth, One Family, One Future, and they had these different bullet points I want to talk about. There was a 70-page document called the G20 Policy Recommendations for Advancing Financial Inclusions and Productivity Gains Through Digital Public Infrastructure. Keywords. Let me say it again. Advancing financial inclusion. That's not the most friendly word, inclusion. There's a part of